Okay, hi everyone. I'm really delighted to be joined by Victoria from Disability North today. We're going to discuss some of the challenges and issues that may be there for people with disabilities in pursuing a trustee role. So hi Victoria. I wonder, as CEO, could you just explain a little bit about Disability North and your trustee board, please?
Thanks very much, Colette. Disability North is a user-led charity, which means that our board is made up of a majority of disabled people. We work with and for disabled people across the whole of the Northeast, but we are based in Newcastle, so a lot of our work is naturally sort of based there, and we support a lot of people in Newcastle and the surrounding areas as well. The kinds of things that we do, we support disabled people really on any issue with disability, providing information, whether that be on independent living equipment, whether that be on benefit entitlement, appealing incorrect decisions, and particularly around like personalised care as well. So supporting people to employ their own personal assistants, manage their social care budget or their health budget as well. And we could run a full payroll service as well for those people that are receiving that support. So there's lots of things. We also do a lot of training on inclusivity and personal assistant training, that kind of thing, and sort of bespoke training as well for organisations.
Fantastic. And what do you consider to be some of the main issues or challenges for disabled people in pursuing a trustee role?
I think some of the challenges are very similar in some ways to many challenges that disabled people face in everyday life, particularly maybe in the work environment. So some things, if somebody has got a varying health condition, for example, they may commit to X, Y, and Z meeting, then might find actually that their health condition prevents them from attending or contributing in the way that's expected. So you've definitely got something around, fluctuating conditions, which I think people need to be aware of. I think there's also still a stigma, unfortunately, around disability, and obviously you could start then drilling down into different types of disability. We're a pan-disability organisation, so we support anybody who falls within the bracket of a disabled person. So that can include mental health, that can include physical impairments, that can include any kind of learning disability as well, or a combination thereof. So I think it's been mindful that there's a lot of things going on in people's lives, and in some ways the challenges that disabled people may have in pursuing a trustee role are no different to many of the rest of us. Often, I'm a member of a number of boards, and sometimes you think, oh wow, am I good enough to do this? Oh, I'm with those people. And I think if you have a condition or you consider yourself disabled, I think there are some extra barriers, because whilst you might have some kind of self-doubt or imposter syndrome, those things that we all have on a day-to-day basis, I think when you've maybe lived in a society that isn't always accessible or inclusive, I think there's some of those sort of mental barriers as well. So they're just a couple of things, that the actual health aspect, but then there's also the surrounding kind of societal expectations of people who are disabled as well.
Yeah, and how might that differ between somebody who has a physical disability and someone with a hidden disability?
Yeah, I mean, they can be very different. I think in some ways, I don't want to say that it's necessarily easier, but I suppose if somebody has a physical impairment and they need X, Y, and Z to get to somewhere, sometimes it's easier to be able to do that. Not always, but if somebody needs a particular workstation or a meeting space or whatever, that can be done. And sometimes it can be a challenge, and sometimes it can be quite easily fixed. I think if somebody has got more of a hidden disability, sometimes it's up to them then whether they want to disclose that, because sometimes they might not want to, they might not do that in their work life, they might not be used to asking for help. So sometimes that can come a little bit later through the trustee role, or whether people feel that they want to disclose or they want to say something. So it's very much about creating that supportive environment.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, that getting that first welcome really right, and making it a safe place for people to discuss whatever their needs are. And so I wonder, would you have any guidance for an organisation in creating that first welcome and making sure the whole process from recruitment to appointment onto a board sustains the same level of welcome and support, to make that a really positive conversation to have?
Sure. I think that there's some practical things that we can all do, as whether you're on a board, whether you're not running an organisation or part of an organisation. And one of those things that we've seen through COVID, many of us are hybrid working, and so providing an option. And I think we're so much more used to providing an option now, thanks to the last 18 months, 2 years. And so making a meeting, yes, it could be face to face, but then also, providing the opportunity for people to join on a Zoom or a Teams meeting and that sort of thing, and know that that's okay to do that. That's absolutely fine. It might not have anything to do with some of their accessibility needs or anybody's accessibility needs. Maybe somebody's had a baby and they actually can't come out at 5 o'clock, or consulting with people. When are the best times? It might not always be the same time, but again, you might need that as a board. So that's a decision that you come to, as a board, really, with some of those practical considerations about how to contribute. And I think it's also important to remember, depending, as a charity in your constitution, to make sure that that's okay, that it's okay to do that remotely, and decisions can be made that way as well. So I think that's some practical considerations. I think the main thing is to be listening and to be open as well. I think, Disability North have quite a large reach in terms of the followers on social media, in terms of our website. And, if charities that might not have anything to do with disability at all, but want to, open up that conversation, they can by all means get in touch with me. And also just asking organisations like Disability North and other organisations in the Northeast, in Newcastle, to put out a call. This organisation recruited might, like I say, very much have nothing to do with disability at all, but it might be a way to kind of capture an audience that you wouldn't ordinarily capture. So I think it's being creative. And when you are having those initial conversations, it's not to be too explicit, but to create a listening environment. What works best for you, and this goes for anybody with a health impairment or not, to be honest, but what works best, what fits around your life. And I suppose being mindful of, if somebody is missing a meeting or somebody is very quiet, as a chair, I guess you've got that responsibility really to go and say, is there anything that you need, anything that you would like to contribute, ensuring that people maybe who don't enjoy speaking to be able to contribute in writing, by email, and that sort of thing. So there's lots of very practical, very easy things to do. Again, easy read, for people, and in different ways that people can contribute. Of course, we're talking about trustees and boards, but organisations, might want to recognise that many people don't have the time to do this, and maybe it's more of a steering group or another kind of role might be appropriate. And again, like I said, I'm quite happy to talk to organisations that are wanting to be actively inclusive, and to try and, I suppose, look at the diversity on their board.
Really helpful. And what I love about conversations like this is that actually all of your guidance is relevant to absolutely every boardroom and every individual, and people maybe are anxious about getting things wrong when you're looking at issues like disability, but actually what it is just about making a really warm welcome in your organisation, to create the greatest diversity and the most inclusive conversations. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed hearing from you, and I've learned a lot about ways to make meetings more inclusive. And of course, if anyone is interested in joining a trustee board, then Trustee Match at Community Foundation can help to reach a broader range of people, and we're always glad to help. And I'm really grateful to know about the support that Disability North offers as well, and it's really generous offer to organisations throughout the region to access your guidance and expertise. So I would just really like to thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.